The last video actually shut off kind of quick. We ran out of room, so so the last video you definitely caught the whole video. So we were talking about we ended that, and I just showed you this one here about B12 and folic acid is necessary for DNA synthesis and red blood cell production. So then we're going to need to talk about what are some other things that stimulates blood cell formation. So the kidneys actually stimulate blood cell formation. They actually trigger the manufacturing of new red blood cells. Now, where are the blood cells made? The blood cells are made, we talked about it earlier, in the bone marrow, the inside of the bone. It's a soft part inside the bone, that, and all bones make that, okay? I say all bones, we need to be careful about that. There's a certain category of bones that don't make bone marrow, but they don't contain bone marrow. But the femur, a large bone in the body, produces a large amount of blood. But we also make new red blood cells in the liver and the spleen. Okay. So now one of the questions on your test, I'm going to ask you where the red blood cells are made, and it'll even ask even in a fetus. It's a bone marrow, the liver, and the spleen all produce blood. Now, do the kidneys produce blood? No, the kidneys don't produce blood. They stimulate blood cell formation. The kidneys actually send a chemical to the bone marrow, to the liver, to the spleen, saying we need to produce more red blood cells. Okay. So now, when we talked about white blood cells, we talked about leukocytes. We talked about that a while ago. Leukocytes. Okay. So we have something called monocytes. Mono meaning one, cyte. CYTES means type of. Okay, so monocyte, okay, are the largest leukocytes, the largest white blood cells found in the peripheral blood. Now, when we say peripheral, it's kind of like your peripheral vision. Okay, what do I see to the side? Peripheral blood is, I have my heart, I have my arteries, I have my veins. The peripheral is all of the capillaries, things that are outside of the main blood system. So monocytes are the largest leukocytes in the peripheral blood. Now, when we talk about a lymphocyte, okay, lymphocyte, L-Y-M-P-H-O-C-Y-T-E, all right, lymphocyte, then that's tied into the lymphatic system. Now, you know we have the blood system that goes throughout the body that carries blood from the heart to the lungs, gets the oxygen, gets rid of the CO2, carries the nutrients throughout the body. But we have another system throughout the body called the lymphatic system. And that carries just a straw-colored material that contains antibiotics primarily throughout the whole body, and liquids, okay, throughout the body. So now, when we talk about a lymphocyte, okay, L-Y-M-P-H-O-C-Y-T-E, okay, lymphocyte travels throughout the blood and it triggers the lymphatic system. So, but a lymphocyte does not have, now here's a big thing, okay, all right, we're going to talk about a term called phagocytic, P-H-A-G-O-C-Y-T-I-C, so it's phagogenic, P-H-A-G-O-C-Y-T-I-C, phagocytic. Now, phagocytic means ability to be able to eat something, okay, so here's a bacteria out here in the body, okay. Now here's a white blood cell coming in, okay, and it sees this and it knows that it's there, and this white blood cell can actually trigger in and eat it and actually decompose and wrap up this bad bacteria and take it and actually put it into the urinary system, and then we can release it. Wow. Okay, but when we talk about a lymphocyte goes and it finds the organism, and then it lets these antibodies know it's there. Oh, okay. Now, I'm going to use some terms really loosely here, okay? And I don't know that this is a great way to do this, but it just kind of helps you understand. The lymphocyte is the neon light that comes in there and then forms a Velcro liner on there, which makes it easier for the antibody to come and the white blood cell to be able to come and get a hold of it. So, I'm going to ask you on your test, okay, on a lymphocyte, I'm going to say which of the following do not have phagocytic properties, and it's a lymphocyte. What that means is the lymphocyte can't eat up the organism and get rid of it, it just identifies it. All right? So it releases antibodies into the circulation, okay? Releases the antibodies into the circulation to go after that. Now, most antibodies, okay, most antibodies come from a cell and a material called gamma globin, okay, G-A-M-M-A-G-L-O-B-U, gamma globulin, G-L-O-B-U-L-I-N. Gamma globulin is what makes the antibiotics in the body. So, where do these antibiotics come from? Well, this gamma globulin, okay, is specific for different types of organisms in the body. So, all of a sudden, what am I going to do? I'm going to give you, like if I want to give you an attenuated vaccine, then I'm going to give you a little bit of this. I went to Kenya to work with their science teachers over there. It was really a cool deal. And I had to go get so many shots. I mean, and I hate shots. I mean, it was a really bad deal. But I had to go get these shots, and one of them was for yellow fever. I had to also take some pills for malaria and different things. But this yellow fever, I'm going back into what they call the bush. I'm going really into an undeveloped part of Africa to work with these teachers that had never had, hadn't had much help with somebody come. It was really amazing. And so what would happen is they gave me this shot for yellow fever. So they gave me a small trace of yellow fever, which is kind of crazy. And so then what happened is I didn't have an antibiotic for that in my system. So I had a gamma globulin develop a particular antibiotic that would go and attack those cells. So then I had that in my body, and it went and it killed those cells that they put in. And now I have the gamma globulin, the gamma globulin had made a specific antibiotic for yellow fever. How cool is that? So that's exactly what happens here. So most antibiotics come from gamma globulin. All right. Now, we talked earlier once again about the Buffy coat, the normal platelet count. So the Buffy coat looks really small, doesn't look like there's much there. But how many platelets do we have? The average person has 200,000 per cubic millimeter. Okay, so it's about a centimeter, which isn't very much. Not a milliliter, but a millimeter. We have 200,000 per cubic millimeter. That's platelets in our blood. Plasma is mostly water. We talked about that earlier. Plasma is 7% of the plasma is protein. What do we hear? Protein over and over and over. Protein is needed for development of new cells. Okay. Now, plasmin, okay, P-L-A-S-M-I-N. Okay, now we talk about plasma. Now this is plasmin, P-L-A-S-M-I-N. Plasmin is a substance that dissolves blood clots, because as we talk about platelets and we talk about blood clotting, okay, that's really good if we want to stop blood flow. But if I've got an area in the blood and I get a blood clot, that's a real problem. Because if I've got a clump of clotted blood in my body, as that goes through my heart and into my lungs and out of my lungs, it could actually plug up my system. Blood clots are actually a big area where people die from blood clots. And so if the blood clot is not dissolved, then it can plug up that artery. Okay, so that's a real problem. My dad had a heart attack several years ago, it's probably been 15, 20 years ago. And so they came in and they said, as a matter of fact, they flew him in a helicopter and to a medical center. He lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so in Fort Worth, they flew him to a medical center, and the doctor came out and he said, hey, we've got to give him a shot of Aculase. And Aculase breaks up the blood clots that are in the body and thins the blood immediately. And the doctor came out, and I was with my mom, and he said to my mom, he said, I need you to sign this paper that's a release that if any of those blood clots get broken up into smaller blood clots and they go into the lungs and he gets killed, that we're not liable. And my mom looked at me and she goes, well, I don't think I want to sign something like that. And so I looked at the doctor and I said to the doctor, I said, well, if it was your dad, what would you do? And he said, I would have signed that 2 minutes ago. So we went ahead and signed that, and it was amazing because this Aculase, okay, lace meaning to eat, okay, this Aculase, they gave my dad a shot of this Aculase, and immediately his heart opened back up, and it busted up all the little clots in there. It was amazing. And the good thing is none of those clots went through, none of those clots plugged up anything, and he turned out to be fine. But it's really interesting because they also gave him plasmin, Plasmin. And what does plasmin do? It dissolves those clots in the blood. Now, we know blood types. We have type A, type B, type O. Now, the rarest blood type is type AB. But we also talk about something called the RH factor. So blood has a plus or minus factor, meaning that's the RH factor. Now, it's kind of one of those things where the mom, okay, like for example, I don't know if you know your blood type. I'm AB positive, okay? Now, AB negative is the rarest blood in the world, and only about 2% of the population of the world have AB negative. And but what happens is you have a plus and minus number on there. So I want to tell you that there's a real risk for a RH, okay, it's the RH factor, okay, it's the plus or minus number, but there's a real risk for a certain type of fatal development of RH incompatibility. And it's going to be on your test, but here's what it is. The second RH positive fetus of an RH mother is a definite problem that we have to worry about in terms of fatal RH incompatibility. Now, you say, well, I don't get that. Well, it's a second RH positive fetus. If the mom has a if the mom has a baby that's RH positive and the mother is RH negative, the body can turn around and adjust and make some adjustments for that. But that second RH positive fetus of an RH negative mother is what we have to watch out for fatal RH incompatibility. Now, I'm going to cover a couple other things. We're about out of time on this video. I'd kind of like to wrap it up a little bit. The average amount of blood in the adults we talked about is 5 liters. I want to talk to you about something called bilirubin. Bilirubin bilirubin stores iron in the liver, and we get a bilirubin count. It tells us how strong. It's a type of hemoglobin. Okay, so when we get a bilirubin count, it tells us how much iron there is in our blood and in our liver. So bilirubin stores iron in the liver, and then it results in the blood. Newborn babies have difficulty removing bile pigments because of their immature liver. So what is this? Newborn babies have difficulty removing bile pigments because of immature liver. So the liver produces bile, which breaks down substances in the body. And if that bile doesn't break down, okay, then the baby gets something called jaundice. Jaundice. And jaundice means that the liver cannot excrete the bilirubin. Now, the good thing about jaundice is we can heal jaundice with light. Once the baby's in sunlight, you hear this a lot, the baby has kind of a yellowish color. And when that happens, then we put the baby in sunlight, and it actually helps break down that bile, and actually is an easy cure for jaundice. I'm going to give you a couple last ones here. Eosinophil. These are the cells that are involved with allergies. When this is in the blood, this is when we develop the allergies. And I want to give you the last one. Acute lymphoid leukemia is the most common cancerous condition in children. And once again, we'll study leukemia a little bit later, but it's really interesting when we have a cancer that actually eats. We have a cancer that actually eats the white blood cells. Can you imagine a disease where we have the white blood cells that are going out and they're trying to kill the organism and kill the bad foreign particle in our body, and then we have a cancer that's actually eating those white blood cells. So that's a real problem. We'll talk about leukemia a little bit later. Wow, a lot of stuff on blood. Good luck on your test. I would go through and watch these videos 2 or 3 times, especially these last 3 or 4 here. After we got done on the board and we sat down here, pretty good review for your test. Good luck on your test with blood. We'll see you next chapter.